you talked about like the weirdos out there. Like, what's like the quirkiest thing you've come across or the weirdest fetish? I mean, we're not going to shame anyone, but like just like the oddest situation that you've walked into. Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, well, connecting all things KC. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to call myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Welcome into Connecting Kansas City. Today is a super interesting episode. Today's guest is Avery, but that's not her real name. It's a pseudonym that we are assigning her to protect her day job because she is a real life person with a professional job in the Kansas City Metro. Avery is a therapist by day, but has been acting as a sugar baby on and off for the past 4 years. And she has graciously decided to join us today to give us the whole scoop, because I know if you're listening, you're curious. Like the first time you heard sugar baby and you're like, that's not a real thing. It's a real thing. And Avery is here to give us the tea. So Avery, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
Understandably. I mean, if you're brave enough to jump into the world of sugaring, I'm sure you can handle a podcast. I think you've got it.
I think I can do it. It's like a first date.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me the story. How does one end up sugaring? How do you sign up for it? How do you even, what's appealing to you about it? Give me the scoop on how you got into it.
So I was brand new 21, like a week into being 21. I was going through a really, really bad breakup. I was actually engaged, and we had broken off the engagement in like February. So this was November. And I had always been interested in sugaring. Like I'd always heard about it. And I was always like, oh my gosh, like that would be so much fun to just like be a sugar baby. Like who doesn't want to get paid to like have fun and go do fun things? So I started doing my research on Google. Like I just typed in like how to be a sugar baby. Started reading blog posts, started watching some videos, looking at all, because there's a million websites. Started looking at all the different websites. I was really looking more for like what would be good for the Kansas City area. And I stumbled upon Seeking Arrangements, or SA. After doing my research, I signed up, and within the first week, I had met like my first sugar daddy. It was like the second date I'd gone on. And yeah, ever since then, it's been something that I've been really comfortable doing. I've been doing it on and off, like you said, for actually 5 years now. It's been crazy. There's been a lot of crazy stories, a lot of crazy guys. I've had some really fun experiences and I've had some really shitty experiences. But overall, it's been a great experience. I'm really glad that I took that leap back whenever I was like 21 and just trying to figure things out. But yeah, that's how I got started. Seeking Arrangements and Google.
I love it. And 21, when all great decisions are made, right? Luckily it worked out for you.
I look back and I'm like, oh my God, like what was I doing?
So
but it worked out.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of us that like really only understand like a really high level concept of sugaring, what is it? What are the parameters around it? Are there any rules? Like what are you signing up for when you sign up for a website that you're putting yourself out there for this?
Yeah. So whenever I first made my profile, I did a lot of like research on what guys were looking for and like what I should include. I didn't know if it was going to be like OnlyFans, you know what I mean? Like, did I need to post sexy pictures? Did I need to just not even show my face? Like, I didn't know what to do. So I just started out with pictures of like myself, but I would black out my face. And then on Seeking Arrangements, you have the ability to do private photos and public photos. And then the private photos can be unlocked for certain people. So like you get to decide who sees those pictures. So I started doing that, and basically anything goes. I mean, there's no rules. You don't get banned. There are some like parameters on like photos you can post, like no nudes, that kind of thing. But pretty much like anything goes. You can make your own bio. So at first I was like, no married men, like no committed relationships, no one over the age of 45. Like I was being really picky, honestly. It didn't last long, I'll say that. You've got to be comfortable with them possibly being married. Yeah, I just made my profile and then it all just kind of came together after that. I did on SA, you can buy like the VIP. It's like $14 a month. I do recommend that. It gives your profile like a boost and it puts you out there more. Pretty much if you're a normal girl and you have real pictures, then you're going to get attention on the website. And then, yeah, everything else comes in person. Like, you've got to meet them in person. You can't be afraid to go out to dinner or go out to drinks or go get coffee or, you have to put yourself out there. It's just like dating in that sense, like online dating. You can't hide behind your computer and like expect everything to just come to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how that's pretty much how sugaring is.
Yeah. So when these men, first of all, is it always men seeking women, or are there sometimes women? Is there like, are there other varietals of
Yeah.
women seeking men or men seeking men? Like, do you see everything, or is it mostly older men seeking younger women?
So it's kind of like Tinder, where you can pick like I'm a girl seeking girls, or I'm a girl seeking men, or I'm a man seeking men, or man seeking woman. So you get to pick what you want, but there's sugar mommies out there who are seeking younger men. I've had a couple guy friends who are like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be a sugar baby. And I'm like, you should do it. Like, I really want to know what that other side is like. I've never met a sugar mommy, but they are out there. So if you know of one, let me know because I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, we love that for them.
Yeah.
So when you sign up for it, like when the men or whoever the sugar daddy mommy, whatever the situation is, when they're signing up for it, are they usually looking for like something sexual or like a date to a specific event or just like ongoing companionship? Like what do you find that they're typically after when they sign up for the site?
So a lot of the men are looking for companionship. A lot of the situations are, I have a wife, I have kids, I have a family, but there's nothing there. Like either they sleep in separate rooms or there's just no sort of intimacy at all. Like, I mean, whether that's giving them a hug or saying I love you or, having sex. I would say that is something that they're almost always looking for. And a lot of them in their bios will say, like, I'm not looking for like virtual only. Like, I'm not looking to swap pics for money. I want to meet in person. I'm not interested in like a one-time thing. They want it to be like a long-term thing. There are a couple men who travel and who do look for one-night stands, and I've been involved in that situation. I found that it's just not as it's just not the point, I guess. The point is to have a mutually beneficial relationship and to you both gain from it. You both have fun, you get money, they get sex, or intimacy or friendship, like it's definitely more of like they're just lonely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, a lot, or they're just weird and like they're never gonna find a. Oh,
Well, it's nice to be there for them too.
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So, how is the pay negotiated? Are they like offering us a wage for like I'm looking for this, this, and this, and here's my offer, or how does it get negotiated?
So I've dealt with many different payment situations. I have had a lot of the sugar daddies I've had have been long term, and by long term I mean like 6 months or longer. So newly starting out, it's usually always pay per meet or PPM. That's usually in their bio, and that's when you go to dinner, you go to a hotel, and you get $400, $500 after that. Like it's very cut and dry. If you're long term and you trust them that they're going to show up and they're going to pay you and you're going to meet, like with my other ones, I would meet them like 3 to 4 times a month. And like some of them would do a monthly allowance where they give me like $1,000 a month. And then some of them do like a 300, 400, whatever, a time. So it really just depends on what they can do and what they're willing to do. Like I said, if they are married, you do have to think about their financial situation and like their bank account and like if their wife is going to see it. It sounds absolutely terrible talking like that, but like it's just the truth. And if you're interested in it, it's something that you just have to accept. And I prefer pay per meet. Like I would rather go out, have a good night, and then get paid at the end of the day. Like that's how I work. I was a server. I enjoy the instant cash, but I've done the monthly allowance thing. That can get a little stressful because like sometimes if you're on your period or you're sick or they're sick or they can't meet you, then it's like, oh, well, I just missed out on like $900. Like, hello, this is how I pay my bills. But I do prefer the pay per meet, and I think a lot of them prefer that too. I've only had a couple that want to do the monthly allowance, and it's because we're really reliable and like it's a routine for us to see each other. But yeah, it mostly just depends on the guy, but pay per meet is mostly like it's the most common.
This is a really logistical question, but is it cash? Is it Venmo? Is it through the platform? And if it's through the platform, is this something you have to file taxes on?
So, okay, so normally it's cash. There are some guys who'll pay me on like Venmo or Cash App, but then again, you have to think about, do they have a wife at home who's looking at their bank statements and like, well, why are you Venmoing or Cash Apping this person $300 every week? Like, well, what's going on? And the taxes thing, I don't know about. I've never paid taxes
Yeah,
on it.
I'm
But
sure that's normal.
yeah, probably maybe you should, but
Like, I'm not an accountant. Don't ask me.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I haven't made enough money. Oh, I don't know. Maybe for them, I mean, it's like it would be like running a small business, you know, like do you count your income on your Venmo or Cash App and do you pay taxes on it? I know that's like a big thing right now with small business owners and like how they take payment. But usually it's cash.
Yeah,
Just so it doesn't leave a trail.
sure. What do you know, like, what your best month ever was? Like, how much you made doing this in your best month?
Oh my gosh. I've made a lot of money. A couple months ago, I was like at my peak. I was making probably $1,800 every 2 weeks. And that was for a good 3 months. And that's probably my best like financial gain from it. It was about $5,000 in 1 month.
Yeah,
Which
it was
is, I mean, that's for just hanging out and getting good food and drinks and having good company. Like, I was like, hell yeah. Like, this is
yeah.
great.
It was like a
But
full-time job, and
yeah,
I
it
assume
was.
I
It
assume they
was.
pay for your meals and your
Mhm.
tickets to things and all that as well when you're out with them, right?
Yeah, I don't pay a dime.
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah.
That's not part of the deal. They're there
Yeah.
to pay me for my company and sex and that yeah, they wouldn't expect me. I've never paid a dime. I've bought them gifts before, like for their birthdays or whatever, but I've never spent money out with them.
hmm When you were at your peak pay, was that like a couple of long-term ones? Was it just lots of PPMs? Like, what was the makeup of your peak pay months?
It was 4 men. That's the most I've ever seen. One of them was paying me like $600 for one Saturday a month. And it was like I would spend all day with him. And I usually don't spend the night with them just because I feel like I don't like doing that. I have before, but I don't anymore. But it was 4 men who I had been seeing regularly for almost a year. Actually, just cut it off with them like 2 weeks ago. So, but yeah, they were long term and they were consistent, very consistent. So that was a good couple months.
Yeah. what is the like coolest thing you've been to from this? Like I imagine a lot of these men are going to like fancy things. Like what is the most exciting thing that you've done as of sugar babying?
I have had some really crazy experiences. The most fun I had was I went to Arizona with one and we got to go to the Grand Canyon and like that was awesome. I flew first class for the first time, like living my bougie life, stayed at a really nice hotel, ate at really nice restaurants. I'm a foodie, so like the food is definitely an incentive for me. Like I'll always go to a nice restaurant and I'll eat a three-course meal. I don't care. Like, I love good food. So I've gotten to go to a lot of the good restaurants around Kansas City and like the tasting rooms and like the Monarch Bar and like those fun, expensive places that you might not get to go on a regular date. That's been definitely the most fun part is getting to have those fun experiences and like getting to show other people like those cool places that I've been to. But Arizona was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So when you're out and about with these guys, what do you tell people? Like if you're chit chatting with the person next to you at the bar, are you their girlfriend or are they just honest? Or like what's the story? Or do you guys make up a story before you go in? How
Yeah,
do you?
so with every guy I've been with, this has almost always became a topic of conversation for us because I'm from Kansas City, like born and raised. I know a lot of people. Usually they know a lot of people or they're in business where they could see someone from work or see a family friend or friends where they know they have a wife at home. And so that's always a topic of conversation because I'm like, okay, we need to be on the same page about this. Like, what if we do run into someone? And it's usually like, first of all, I don't have a job that I can say, like, this is my client. I don't take clients out at night to
Mhm.
dinner. So usually if they're in business, it's like, oh, yeah, this is my client. We're just out on a business meeting. I thankfully, knock on wood, well, not that I'm doing it anymore, but I hope I never run into that situation because I think it would stress me out. Like I would feel so terrible if someone like got caught with me out and it got back to their wife or something. I mean, that would be terrible. Most of the time, if there is someone who's worried about that, we'll go to a very low key spot, like a hotel bar or a private area where no one would be likely to see us. And again, a lot of these dates happen on the weeknights and not the weekends. So it's like there's not a whole lot of people out and about on the weeknights. And usually, if you're going to a nice dinner, you would likely do that on the weekend. So that's helped a lot, I feel like, but I've thankfully never ran into anyone I know personally. I don't think anyone else has either. I was at the Chiefs game a couple weeks ago with one of my sugar daddies, and he did see someone that he knew, and he literally just walked away from me and like acted like he was there by himself. Because I don't think there was an excuse for that. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think we could have talked ourselves out of that one. But thankfully, no one said anything to him or his wife. So, yeah. But that was the closest call I've had, was just a couple weeks ago. And I've been doing this for years. So,
yeah.
I mean,
You
it is a concern, but it's never been a real situation.
For sure. So your day job is in like the therapy realm.
Mhm.
So do you find yourself like acting like almost a therapist for a lot of these men? Like, hey, like clearly your marriage is not good since you're here. It's like you want to talk about it and maybe like the best thing for both of you perhaps might be another option. Like, do you find yourself having that conversation a lot?
Absolutely. Especially, okay, so I come from divorced parents and I come from a home where there was a lot of fighting and a lot of the men I see do have children. And whether they're my age or younger, I do find myself giving them advice, even if it's not warranted. And I'm like, hey, maybe you should go be a better husband. Like, if I have that relationship with them, I will. I did say that to my last one. I said, now you can focus on being a good husband because you've been very distant. And I feel like it's obvious that you're getting attention elsewhere. And I never want to be like the other girl. I always try to be respectful and I'm not against talking to them about it, but at the same time, like we are in an arrangement. I am sleeping with them. And so I have to have a kind of disconnect between myself and them. And like, You know, you have to know not to catch feelings, and you have to know not to get hurt if they talk about their wife or things. If they need to vent, you can't be upset about it because it's real life. I mean, it's a real situation. It's their marriage, it's their livelihood, it's their kids. So I do find myself giving them advice. And even if they're not in a marriage and they're just single, I'm like, you know, you should really like try dating real, like not an arrangement. Like I think you would be a great boyfriend. Like, you know, you have so much potential to be a great husband, great boyfriend, whatever it may be. And I'll really, you know, support them. I want them all to be happy. That's really what it comes down to, especially the ones that I have seen for a long time. Like I want them to be happy and, you know, yeah.
How often do you catch feels? Does that happen a lot?
That's only happened once and it will never happen again. That's actually one of the stories I have about catching feelings. It did not end up well for me at all. That's some of my biggest advice is if you are going to do this, you cannot catch feelings. Like, I don't care what the guy says. I don't care what he makes you believe. I don't care what you guys do together. It's not a relationship. And whenever you start an arrangement, it's always going to be the on the grounds of an arrangement. I feel like once you do that, you can't go back. You can't take it back. You know, it's just they're using you for sex and you're using them for money, and in a sense. And it's hard to. At first, it was hard for me to separate the two. Now it's really really easy. But that's whenever I was young, 21, I caught hard feelings, and it ended in a literal disaster, a dumpster fire. So.
So let's hear the story. Is that your worst, craziest experience
Yes.
in sugaring, and what happened?
Biggest jerk, biggest asshole, oh, nastiest guy ever. So my first arrangement was about 8 months. And throughout the time at the beginning, like it was great. We were friends on social media. He was very open and honest with me. We talked all the time. He wasn't from here, but he lived here. He traveled a lot for work. He was a businessman, a really successful businessman. About 4 months into our arrangement, he blocked me on social media, which honestly should have been my first, like, hey, what the hell is going on? Like, why did you block me? But me being my little, like, submissive self, I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, it means nothing. And so I just went along with it and I didn't say anything to him about it. And then a couple months later, we were out to dinner and he was like super emotional. He literally cried at dinner and I was like, what the hell is going on? And we got back to his apartment and he was like, I have to tell you something and this is just going to be really hard. And I was like, oh my God, like what? Like in my head at the beginning of the dinner, I thought that was going to be the night that he told me he had feelings for me, literally. Like I was in love with this man and I was like, oh, he's going to tell me that he wants to have a relationship. Oh, I was wrong. Um, he was like, I'm dating so and so. And the girl that he said was a girl that he had told me that he had been friends with. They dated in the past, like years and years ago, like probably 5 years prior they dated. And he told me that they'd been dating for a couple months and that he needed, no, he didn't even say he needed to break it off. He just told me they were dating. And he told me he wanted to continue seeing me. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, are you crazy? I was like, I thought you were going to tell me that you wanted to date me. And like, I was crying and it was terrible. It was like a really bad night. But that weekend, like this was on a Thursday, and that weekend I had agreed to house sit and watch his cats for him. And I'd been watching his cats this whole time. Like he would go off on his little rendezvous weekend with her, and I was back watching his cats, and he would block my number. And still in my head, I was like, oh no, he's being honest with me. Like he's not seeing anyone else. And so after he got back, I broke it off with him and we like didn't talk for a couple months. And one night I'd gone out with some friends and I had gotten a new sugar daddy at this point. Like I was like over it, whatever. I'd gone out with some friends. I was a little drunk, but I was like, I have got to find this girl. Like I just have to find her. I just have this gut feeling that he never told her. He's still not being honest. I'd seen him again on Seeking Arrangements. So I searched on Facebook. Like I said, he'd blocked me on Facebook, but I searched his name, his full name, and her first name because that's all I knew. And the first picture that popped up was them two together, and she was tagged. And I was like, oh my God. I think I called my friend and I was like, I found her. Like, I found her. What do I do? Like, do I tell her? Like, I don't know. And so I messaged her on Facebook and I was just like, hey, so I just messaged her and I was like, hey, I'm from Kansas City. I've been seeing your boyfriend as a sugar baby. Like, I should also add that she was a sugar baby prior to dating him, but they did not meet in that setting. But she was a sugar baby in the state that she lived in. I need to tell you everything. Like, we've been seeing each other for 8 months, and the whole time you guys have been together, he was seeing me. And there was a lot of things that I'd been thinking about in my head over the last couple months that I was like, this just does not add up. Like, something is off. I got into my apartment and I was going to the bathroom and she starts calling me on Facebook Messenger and I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, oh my God, like in my head, I was like, this girl's going to hate me. Like, she's going to go off on me. She's going to be really defensive. And so I answer the phone and I'm like, hello? And she's like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And she's like, can you just like start from the beginning? And so I literally told her everything. Like, I left nothing out. And I was like, you know, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to lay it all out on the table and whatever happens, happens. I've already lost him. Like, it doesn't matter what happens to him. If anything, this girl hates me and that's the end. And so we talk for like an hour and 30 minutes, and she three-way calls him on the phone with me. So they were still dating. And at the time, he was in New York, and he was supposedly on a business trip. But when he answered the phone, there was a girl screaming his name in the background. And so that automatically like sent her over the edge. Like, she was livid, and because he was supposed to be there for work and clearly drunk somewhere with a girl who's screaming his name, and we can like hear it in the background. And so the first thing she says is, she's like, okay, first things first, we're done. Like, we're breaking up. This is it. And she's like, I need you to explain yourself. And he starts backtracking and like talking about how much he hates me and how I'm sabotaging his life and I ruined everything. And I'm like, no, you ruined everything. Like, this is your fault. And we still don't know to this day how many women he was seeing at that time, but they broke up and me and her stayed friends. We're still friends. She can't wait to listen to this podcast. um, she lives, like I said, in another state. So I traveled to her. We had some really great times. She came here to meet my parents. Like, we had fun times here in Kansas City. We're not as close as we used to be, but she's still one of my good friends. I care about her and I wish her nothing but the best. But I don't care what happens to that man. He is scum.
Wow.
But yeah, it was crazy. And then like fast forward almost 2 years, he met a new lady who came after me and like some of my friends that were not involved in the situation at all. And just like, he was still trying to input himself in my life, and like she was really insecure about it and thought he was still seeing me. And he has reached out periodically and I've just shut him down. Like, he doesn't deserve he doesn't deserve a minute of my time. But yeah, that was definitely the craziest situation. And like, I look back on it and I'm like, wow, like what a whirlwind. Yeah, it was just really crazy. And he's just an asshole. And
Yeah.
that's what I mean about not catching feelings, because at the end of the day, like, it was an arrangement and he didn't owe me anything, but he lied to me. And he was telling me I was the only girl he was sleeping with, and we were doing some things that I would have rather done more safely, and I probably would have been STD tested, and like, I would have been more cautious about things. But just a really good liar and manipulator, and told us both everything we wanted to hear and knew exactly how to play the game. But that's why that's why I can disconnect myself now from feelings in a real relationship in my arrangements that I have.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about like the weirdos out there. Like, what's like the quirkiest thing you've come across or the weirdest fetish? I mean, we're not going to shame anyone, but like, just like the oddest situation that you've walked into.
Oh my god. The audit. Okay, this is weird. I met this man, and he was a very large man, and he had a micro penis. And his micro penis had an accident when he was younger, and it didn't work correctly, or it didn't not work, but it just worked in a different way. And he did not tell me beforehand, like, I have this problem and it's gonna be weird, but like, this is what it is. And I was just like shocked. I had to get out of his apartment. That was one of the times where I had my friend call and was like, "Hey, emergency, you've got to get to me now." Because I was so appalled. Like, I was just like, why would he not warn me about this issue? And not even the micro penis. Like, if you have a small penis, okay, whatever. But then, like, the medical part of it, I was like, you should have warned me. Like, you really should tell your next
Because
partner.
then you can't react like with kindness because you're too
know.
surprised.
I was just like, okay, I guess that just happened. Like, yeah, definitely the weirdest situation. Like, and I mean, I've met my fair share of men, and like, even in the real dating world, I've met some crazy guys. But like, that was one situation that I will never forget.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. Wow. Yeah, so you see it all. What is it like for you dating in real life? Like actually dating people while trying to balance this sugaring on the side?
So it's been a learning experience. I have gone about it two different ways. I've gone about it where I've just been completely honest with whoever I'm seeing, like, yeah, I'm a sugar baby and this is what I do. And the other side, I've hid that part of my life. It's really just depended on the person. I've dated older men and then I've dated guys that are my age. The guys that are my age, I've found don't take it as well as the older men. I don't know if it's because they're not older men and they're like insecure or just weirded out. Like, oh my God, you would have sex with someone that's like 60? Like, oh my God, that's weird. Like, we're all like 20. Whenever it comes to, okay, so like, I'll be casually dating, like not in a committed relationship, but just casually hanging out with someone, and I will always cut it off with my sugar daddies if I start catching feelings or get into a committed relationship, because I know myself and I know that those two parts of my life can't mix. I can't focus on the guy that I actually have feelings for and see my sugar daddies, because like I get stuck in this mindset of like, oh, like, I don't want to stop sugaring right now because it's going really well and like I'm making a lot of money and like, where am I going to supplement this income? And I have struggled with that, but I've learned that if I just cut it off with my sugar daddies, it's always going to be there if I want to come back. Whether it be them or different ones, I can always enter that part of my life again, but I might not always be able to enter the relationship that I'm in at the time. Every single time I've broken up with a guy in the last 4 years, I've always gone back to sugaring. There hasn't been a single time where I haven't. It's almost like my vice. After I break up with someone, like, I automatically fall back into that. And I'm not saying it's bad at all. Like, it works for me and it's fine. But of course I'm almost 26 and I want there to be an end in sight for sugaring. I don't want to do it forever. I don't want to be like 35 and being a sugar baby. I mean, like, come on. Going off that question, I am dating someone now and I am in a committed relationship. And so like about 2 to 3 weeks ago, I did cut it off with two of my sugar daddies because I know in my heart that I can't do both. And I respect the guy I'm dating and I did not want to overlap those at all. So before it even got to that point, I was like, nope, I got to cut it off. It's a very new relationship, but I still respect him. I mean, it is cheating. I'm sleeping with someone else. Like, that's cheating. And so I cut them off. But I wish them nothing but the best. I care about both of them deeply, and they were both very understanding, and they know that I'm young, and they know that I don't want to do that forever. So I hope it works out, but if not, I know that seeking arrangements will always be there for me.
It sure will. It sure will. Last question. I have 2 more questions for you. One, well, first a comment and then 2 questions. Comment, you absolutely should write a book. You must write a book.
That's what everyone says.
Oh my gosh, it would be amazing. Question, you mentioned advice for people that are thinking about getting into it, and you said the biggest piece of advice is don't catch feelings. Is there any other like tips for someone that's like listening to this and like, oh, that kind of appeals to me, I'm interested in that? What would you tell them?
For sure. Have fun and also be safe. Like, if you're going out to meet a guy, I always made sure my friends knew where I was. They knew who I was going out with, whether it be his real name or not, which a lot of them do give you a fake name to begin with. And then once you meet them in person, they'll be like, oh, my name is actually this. Always share your location with your friends. Always have a safe word. Like, if you text your friend this, they'll get you out of the situation, because like I said earlier, there was some weird things that have happened to me, and like, to have that ability to get out of that situation quickly was nice. And then don't be afraid to meet them in person. That's how this works. I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, well, I would love to be a sugar baby, but I don't want to meet them in person. Like, can't I just sell them pictures? And I'm like, no, that's like OnlyFans. Like, that's not being a sugar baby. A sugar baby is having an arrangement, having that intimacy, going out and doing fun things together, and like just having a friendship that you feel comfortable in, which also good sex and money. I mean, so yeah, just don't be scared, but also be safe, be aware of your surroundings, and don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. It's okay to say no. Just have
good
fun
stuff
with it, but
man. Avery, I could talk to you for like 3 hours about this, but people have commutes. They're getting to work now and just like have stories to tell at the water cooler all day. So I will ask you the last question I ask everyone that comes on the show, and that is, what is a great meal that you've had recently in Kansas City?
Ooh, I always love Prime Social. That is my go-to. Prime Social rooftop, 10 out of 10 every single time. They have good sushi, they have good oysters, they have great cocktails, and the environment is great. And the Chiefs hang out there. Like, Taylor Swift was literally there, so go there. You have to have reservations, though, and you have to have them like 2 weeks in advance.
It is. It's worth it, though.
10 out of 10.
But yeah, so to say, you can like maybe drink from the same glass that Taylor Swift drank from. Right? So like if Avery didn't sell you enough, then like,
yeah.
And we have yet to make it through a podcast episode of Connecting Kansas City without mentioning Taylor and Travis since they were announced. But here we are.
With both of them, so I could not.
Oh my gosh. Same. Well, thank you so much for being here today and being so vulnerable. And open. I think this was really interesting for me. I think it's like a thing that people have heard of but don't know much about. So I know I learned a lot today, and I'm sure lots of people listening did as well. So I appreciate it.
Yep, maybe I'll write a book and then you can advertise it on your podcast.
You come back on the show and we'll talk about it again. I can't wait.
All right. Thank you
see you
so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.